Hey, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful weekend so far, and hopefully, we had a wonderful holiday as well. Now, we're ending out November here and starting December, and we are looking at a very active start to the month, I think, here, especially from the overnight model runs. You folks who have maybe been asking for some winter weather may finally be on the table. We'll talk about who that is, as we could see maybe a storm system about a week or so from now get its act together and impact places potentially pretty far south. Now, still a lot of uncertainty with this storm, but we are beginning to see some agreement on the models and what I would call a signal for potentially a southern and kind of mid-Atlantic winter storm. So we'll definitely break all of that down for you in today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And if you haven't already subscribed, I'll ask you to do so. Also, hit that bell for the latest notifications. It's a great way to stay up to date. You'll be the first to hear about these latest model runs and get the first analysis of those models here as soon as I hit the post button on YouTube. Also, go ahead, like the video, comment, let me know where you're watching from, and let me know if you want to see snow. Personally, here in Charlotte, I definitely would love to see some snow. We haven't seen it in more than 2 years now, so we're definitely in a bit of a drought here, and we're about to time for something to happen. So we'll definitely see if we can get that done here in the month of December. Now, I will also briefly mention here, if you have not already and you would like to order your 2025 GM weather calendar, go ahead and do so. Link is in the description. I know a lot of people have gotten theirs already, and I've heard nothing but great things. I also got my hands on one of them, and I have to say, it actually turned out even better than I expected. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely consider doing that. Link, again, is in the description. Alrighty, folks, let's go ahead and start talking weather here because we do have a lot to get through in kind of a reasonable amount of time. So we'll start with satellite imagery. Same old right now. Lake effect snow is continuing to be a big time topic as we get these winds to cross over the Great Lakes. We've already seen feet of snow in spots. I got a couple comments yesterday from some folks in New York and other places getting affected by the lake effect in Wisconsin and Michigan. And they told me, yep, it's snowing and it's snowing pretty good. And that's going to continue through the rest of this weekend. Some places are going to have more than 6 feet of snow on the ground by the time all is said and done. So you're done seeing green grass for the winter until all this kind of begins to melt next spring. Now, that's not the only snow we're seeing, though. We have a little bit of a clipper system right now working on through parts of the country. This is going to dump some snow, and I think probably more than some people expect in places pretty far south through Missouri, Kentucky, even into Virginia, West Virginia. And there's a possibility that maybe a couple flurries make it over the Appalachia chain, especially with a second clipper system I'm watching in a couple of days. So a very active pattern ahead. Out west, things actually remain pretty quiet as you folks are getting in on some ridging, so kind of the opposite of what you were seeing about a month or so ago. Now, current radar imagery, getting to see that snow I was telling you about. Let's start up into the Great Lakes here. Heavy snow coming off of Lake Erie here, Lake Ontario, even Lake Huron seeing some good snowfall, and really even to the north up through Michigan as well. All of the usual lake effect suspects getting in on it, from the Tug Hill just south of Buffalo all the way down towards the Cleveland metro, where we have seen already plenty of that snow accumulating. Even back up into Michigan, the northern mitten, and into the upper peninsula, and really through the western coast of Michigan has seen some snow already. That will continue, but we look off towards the south and to the east here, or to the west rather, sorry. You see some of that snow beginning to fall into Missouri and Kansas, from Topeka, Kansas City, back through St. Louis, Jefferson City. If you're watching from Missouri, let me know how much snow you've got on the ground, or if maybe you're in a part of the state that's not seeing it. Let me know as well, and we'll try to get some snow your way here on down the road. But right now, a lot of folks picking up on some of that white stuff falling out of the sky, even some of that lingering back up into Nebraska and South Dakota. Other than that, folks, I mean, things are pretty quiet on radar here. Those are really the two big pieces of energy. A couple snow showers up into the northern Rockies through Idaho and Montana, and plenty of snow back out into the Rockies of Canada. But all things considered, most of the active weather is in the east right now, and you can see that on our watches, warnings, and advisory map as well, where all of these kind of bright colors are in the east. So let's go ahead and zoom in on that. Again, starting with the Great Lakes, the purple boxes you see are winter weather advisories. The pink boxes, winter storm warnings, and kind of those turquoise, at least that's the color I'm going to go with. Maybe it's something else, but those blue boxes you see from Buffalo down to Cleveland and up into the Tug Hill, those are lake effect snow warnings, I believe is what we call those. Yes, lake effect snow warnings. for those regions. Excuse me. So definitely, plenty of snow on the way. The boxes, the watches, the warnings, and the advisories indicate that. Also, a nice swath of winter weather advisories here from Kansas City back through St. Louis into Louisville, northern Kentucky into eastern Kentucky, and even into West Virginia. Again, this Clipper system, it's going to dump some snow, folks, and we'll talk about totals in a minute here, but definitely a notable swath of winter weather alerts there. And then to the south, freeze warnings for our southern areas through the Florida Panhandle, down into the deep south through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and into the low country of South Carolina, where we're getting very cold in the mornings, right down into the 20s in some of these spots. So definitely, getting past planting season and the National Weather Service letting you know about it with those watches, warnings, and advisories. Again, out west, not much happening. We've got some fog in places, but really nothing falling from the sky. All right, meteorology in minutes. We're going to kind of combine meteorology in minutes today with what's coming with these Clipper systems. And then we'll break down those Clipper systems. Then we'll talk about that lake effect snow, and then talk about that storm potential later on down the road towards probably about 7 or so days from now. All right, so looking at the upper levels, this is 300 millibars. If you're new to the channel and you don't know what 300 millibars means, no worries. That's up into the top of the atmosphere. And anytime you're talking in millibars, you're talking in terms of mass. So the higher the number, for example, 850 millibars is lower to the ground, meaning there's more mass in that part of the atmosphere. 300 millibars, that's higher up off the ground. There's less mass up kind of where the jet stream is where we're looking at here. And what I want you to notice is a term I'm going to mention here called a short wave. Now, we have long wave and short wave troughs in meteorology. A long wave trough is kind of this overall bending that you're seeing. That we could consider maybe a long wave trough. What's an example of a short wave trough? Well, a short wave trough would be this little section within that long wave. And these short waves are tremendously difficult for the model sometimes to latch onto. But it's also these little events that sometimes can bring surprise snow. And it's bringing that Clipper system right now, which this one isn't necessarily a surprise, but I do think some people will be surprised at exactly how much snow falls. But that's what we're watching. We're going to watch this little short wave. And basically what happens, again, is you get the overall trough, this indicating that cold air to the north. But you get this kind of little short wave here. And you'll get a little bit of divergence on the kind of diverging side there, and you'll get just enough lift. And again, that's what the models oftentimes struggle with. But we'll move this ahead into time. We get through today that little short wave, moving on through. Let me refresh the page, actually, sorry. So we'll move this ahead a little bit, that little short wave moving on through Kentucky, into Tennessee, and then into portions of West Virginia and Virginia. And what happens is it turns a little less into a short wave, and it kind of just re-merges with this overall long wave. And that's when kind of our lift from our snow will begin to die down, and we'll lose that snowfall potential. Now, that's just the first Clipper system. I'm watching another one late this weekend into early next week. We'll move this map ahead into time, and here it comes. Again, you'll notice a little bit of a kink here into the jet stream, indicating we've got some lift happening, and that will also swing on through some of the same areas as we move this ahead into time, before eventually, again, kind of flattening out at the bottom of this trough, and we're back to more of a long wave look here by early next week. So a couple of these little Clipper systems, they're going to come on through, they're going to drop some snow, and we can go ahead and time that out for you. This is this morning. There's that snow that we saw on radar building back into Missouri, and moderate to even heavy snow at times, folks. This isn't just flurries falling. We've got some pretty good banding within this. That swings on through, and by this afternoon, we've got snow falling into portions of Kentucky, southern Indiana, southern Illinois. Swings on through, continues to snow into Kentucky this evening, and then into portions of West Virginia and Virginia overnight tonight. And by early tomorrow morning, we've still got some snow showers lingering here from northern Kentucky, southern Ohio, into West Virginia, and then continuing to snow into the mountains of West Virginia and even southwest Virginia through your Sunday afternoon. Now, that's one model. I wanted to kind of breeze on through that one because I wanted to actually show you this model, which is the NAM, which is kind of showing more precipitation, but it's oftentimes that these storms do that and they overproduce. So let me show you another possible solution. Here we go this morning. Again, all that heavy to moderate snow falling, that swings on through, gets into southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and you'll notice more snow showing up on this map. I do think that this is a very real possibility that this one will kind of overperform a little bit from what the last model showed, and Continues to snow here this afternoon into this evening. By the time the sun is setting, we've got a good swath of snow from St. Louis back through southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and working into portions of Kentucky, again, by the time the sun is falling. Now, overnight tonight, this heavy band moves over towards Louisville into really central Kentucky throughout much of the evening and the overnight tonight. That snow falling really, again, through much of the state, and then back into West Virginia, southern Ohio, southern Indiana, getting into the mountains of Virginia by early tomorrow morning, and still snowing pretty good here through your Sunday morning into the eastern half of Kentucky there, into the Pikeville area and surrounding regions, then finally tapering off by tomorrow afternoon. But notice what comes behind it. I talked about that second clipper system. See that snow beginning to build in Iowa. This is Sunday afternoon, diving south again through Missouri into the St. Louis area, this time into western Illinois, not just the southern half of the state, getting in on the action for your early Monday morning. And by Monday afternoon, the NAM's got a lot of snow falling here, again into Kentucky, this time getting down into portions of Tennessee, through Illinois, Indiana, down towards southeastern Missouri as well, there towards the boot. And if we kind of move this out a little bit further into time, this is the same model, the NAM, just a lower resolution version, so it goes to 84 hours instead of 60. You'll notice that same idea, that band of snow works on through, gets down through St. Louis, into Kentucky, and we've even got snow showers working through the state of Tennessee for your Monday afternoon. And notice some of this getting into the mountains of North Carolina, and even a couple of these snow showers trying to break containment, get into North Georgia, even the Piedmont of the Carolinas, some sprinkles and flurries Monday evening. Is this going to happen? Well, it's a possibility. You'll definitely notice that even getting there towards portions of eastern South Carolina. You folks here probably near Florence, South Carolina are saying, all right, it's going to snow overnight Monday. Hold your horses, but definitely would not be surprised to see a couple of flakes make it over the mountain chain. Again, these are tough systems to forecast. There are little ripples in the atmosphere, and anytime that ripple's a little stronger than a model suggests, you can get an event like this where some of that breaks containment, as we say, getting over the mountain chain and into the Piedmont of the Carolinas. Now, we wouldn't see big accumulations into the Carolinas, but somewhere that we will see pretty big accumulations is up here to the north with today's Clipper system. Now, this is just today's Clipper system. This is not the one early next week. This is just for your Saturday and your Sunday. And you'll notice the blended model is pretty aggressive here into the St. Louis area. We're talking 3 to 5 inches of snow. That continues into southern Illinois, 1 to 3 inches here through southern Indiana and into the Louisville area. And then a good amount of snow falling into the higher terrain of West Virginia as well. On some of these highest peaks, we're talking half a foot plus of snowfall as you get kind of the help from this Clipper and some northwest flow from all of that lake effect happening. Definitely going to be a storm that I think catches some people off guard who maybe aren't expecting a significant winter weather event. Now, for some folks, this isn't significant, but I would argue 4 or 5 inches of snow in St. Louis, to end November and start December, that's a pretty big event, a noteworthy one in my opinion. And that's, again, just the start. We've got another Clipper system. This is the GFS Ensemble's 24-hour snowfall. And you'll notice that signal for the next storm. This is this coming Monday into Tuesday, a big swath from Illinois, again into St. Louis, and then down towards Kentucky, even into portions of Appalachia chain into the Smokies, up into portions of Indiana, even southern Ohio, and into the higher terrains of West Virginia. That swings on through, gets maybe some pretty good snow into the mountains of North Carolina out of that one, and you'll notice even a couple little areas showing up with some 0.1s on the map here into the Piedmont of North Carolina and Virginia. Now, I'm not expecting any accumulations in Greensboro, Charlotte, Raleigh, but don't let your guard down. Maybe Monday night you'll get to go look up at the floodlights and see a flake or two fly. Not out of the question. But again, no impacts, and would be more of a novelty event that many people probably don't even know happens, as it would be happening in the overnight hours. All right, now these Clipper systems obviously are not the only thing we're tracking. We've been talking about lake effect. That's going to continue. So let's zoom things out to where you can see the Great Lakes and kind of the Clipper setup at the same time. This is this afternoon. Obviously, heavy snow continuing up into the UP of Michigan, the western shores, down through Lake Erie from just south of Buffalo into Erie itself, and then the Tug Hill. Really kind of the big winners out of this one, probably, with that heavy band of snow continuing this afternoon. And that continues into the evening as well. There's that Clipper system. You'll see the one we've been talking about to the north, though. Lake effect continues to reign supreme. over many of the places that saw it yesterday. Gonna happen again. And I did get a comment yesterday, and somebody made a very good point, actually. They said their location hadn't got a lot of snow, but they thought, 5 or 10 miles to the south they had. And that's the thing with lake effect. If you're new to this area of the country, you're going to find out quick. It's kind of boom or bust with these lake effect events. So not everyone in upstate New York is going to see 6 feet of snow. Some of you might only get a dusting to an inch, but others will get 6 feet. And that's one of those things you really kind of have to nowcast it. But I will show you the snowfall map here in a second to show you who's likely to get those high snowfall totals. Now, overnight tonight, more of the same, folks. Snow continuing to fall into the Great Lakes. By the time we're getting into your Sunday afternoon, that first Clipper system kind of dies out and any moisture left from it gets squeezed out over West Virginia, and maybe even the Boone area of North Carolina. Here comes the next Clipper, though. And again, while these Clippers are moving through, lake effect not stopping. It's going to keep on coming and keep on coming. We'll move this into overnight Sunday. That next storm system moving down through Iowa, into the St. Louis area, through Illinois, Kentucky, and eventually getting into maybe even portions of Tennessee. This is Monday afternoon, and the Great Lakes not changing a lot. Now, I will mention by Monday, the wind direction is going to shift a little bit, so you'll notice some of these bands are less horizontal to the shore and kind of coming more downwind, I guess, of the lakes is maybe the best way to word it there. Same thing for you folks in Michigan, less horizontal and beginning to tilt a little bit more, which could bring you folks up here into southwestern Michigan more into play for heavy snowfall. If you're watching from there, you're going to get a little bit more of a fetch off the lakes here. Could also bring some more snow into the western half of the UP of Michigan compared to the eastern half, who's been seeing most of it. So we will get little fluctuations in the wind direction. That'll change where these bands set up the most, but either way, a snowy scene on the way for many folks. All right, this is snowfall over the next 72 hours, and this is the 75th percentile from our models. I don't have it on the 50% because I think the mean of the models is actually underdoing it a little bit, and this is a little bit closer to the NWS forecast. So we'll take a look here. We'll start into Michigan, into the UP. Heavy snow into the northern mitten. The mean here is a foot or so, but as you folks know, places will get more, places will get less. And you'll notice down here into southwestern Michigan, getting a higher signal, probably on the latter end of that 72 hours, getting towards half a foot to a foot, and plenty of snow into the upper peninsula, potentially more than 2 feet in spots. Now we'll move this over to Canada, into Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Watertown, they're going to be the big winners here. This is saying another 30 inches of snow. It could be another 40 inches, honestly, folks, but you get to the point where you can't even really tell the difference from another 40 inches and another 30 inches between the wind blowing and, you can't really tell by looking at it unless you've got multiple yardsticks to put in the ground. Then, maybe you'll get an exact measurement, but a ton of snow falling there. And then just south of Buffalo and north of Cleveland, that kind of corridor, really right through the Erie area, but especially just south of Buffalo, another 30 plus inches on the way. South of Erie, another 20 plus inches on the way. And then here just off of Lake Huron into Canada, we're talking 25 inches, which I cannot convert that to millimeters or centimeters off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's a lot of snow. So maybe put that into a calculator. I should probably know that. By the way, as I move to the next map, actually, I was going to show you one more thing on this one, and then I'll mention what I was going to mention. Here's the blended models for this coming snowstorm. Again, next 72 hours. A pretty good amount, and this is on the higher end, so some of the models are showing half a foot of snow not far from St. Louis, and some are showing, about half a foot of snow into the mountains of West Virginia. Now, you are noticing some snow here off the coast to the northeast, and you're saying, well, what in the world is this big gap right here? Why is that happening? And this is kind of something I probably could have talked about meteorology in minutes. This is actually ocean effect snow. So we've got lake effect snow. We're also getting ocean effect snow, very warm temperatures in the Atlantic compared to the air that's moving over it. And it's actually snowing offshore of Long Island and kind of surrounding areas here. Now, there is a chance parts of Long Island out here towards kind of East Marion, Springs, Long Island. Now, you could technically get some lake effect or ocean effect off of Long Island Sound that makes it over. So that's something to mention over the next 72 hours. If anyone's watching there, I'd love to hear if you get any of that. Same story for portions of the Cape. You could get some Cape Cod ocean effect snow that makes it here into Plymouth, Nantucket, and kind of surrounding areas. But on the mainland, if you're lucky, a couple snow squalls maybe make it over from the Great Lakes, but nothing much. And yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing in this part of the country. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the long range. What's coming on down the pipeline? And again, the models have gotten a little more exciting overnight. And I said that yesterday. I said the past 36 hours or so, the models had kind of upticked a little bit. They've done it again overnight. And I think some of you folks are going to be very excited to see some of these model runs I'm about to show you. But before we get straight into, am I going to see snow? Am I going to see ice? Am I going to see rain? Let's talk about the setup, because that's kind of the important part first. The models are going to change, but once you get an idea of what the overall setup looks like synoptically, you'll be in much better shape here for your forecast and kind of understanding what the possibilities are. All right, this is the latest GFS, just ran not long ago. This is starting Tuesday afternoon. So we've got one big block of cold air over the eastern half of the country. This is beginning to recede a little bit, though. And I do think Tuesday and Wednesday will kind of moderate. The pattern will slow down a little bit. The lake effect should, at least ease somewhat. These clippers will calm down a little bit, but don't get too excited, because I want you to watch what's happening up here into Canada. Watch this little area of blue. Now, this is coming straight from the Arctic. This is an Arctic air mass, and what that does is it dives southward and eventually enters the northern United States. This is this coming Thursday afternoon. So I guess about 5 or so days from now, we've got another big block of cold air working into the Great Lakes region, into the Northeast. And I mean, this is frigid air, folks. This is sub 500 sub 500 height values. That is well below average, very anonymously cold. In fact, if you look at the key on the bottom, those kind of light blues you're seeing, that's all the way on the cold side of the key. Or actually the other side, sorry, this side down here on the, well, you get the point, the negative 40 you see. So very, very cold air. And what happens on the GFS is that kind of gets up into Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, and another little area of cold kind of dives southward. And it's very important where this potential second piece dives. Now, the GFS pulls it south into Minnesota, into Iowa, and into Wisconsin, and that's actually good news for snow lovers in the east. The further west you dive these, now you don't want to dive them all the way to the west coast, but if you can get this to dive down towards the Mississippi River Valley, that gives it time to kind of strengthen, spin a little bit stronger, and begin to tilt negatively, and that gives a higher chance for a significant storm to develop. And we've got the cold air from that first piece that drops south, and that's what the GFS does. We get this big block of blue to move south into the lower 48 into next weekend. This is Saturday, Sunday, that next Monday. And then, we maybe moderate a little bit into the 10-day range. But it's something that we need to watch, and I think it's going to be potentially a big storm if it happens. Now, that's just the GFS, though. What does the European show? And it's a little different, folks. Now, we do get this same big block of cold air around next Thursday. Again, well below average, but you'll notice that second piece, kind of hard to see here, not really as pronounced. It's more right here. It's a little bit further east. It dives more into the mid-Atlantic than down into the Mississippi Valley, and that prevents the northern stream and the southern stream energy from connecting, and we kind of miss out on a big snowstorm. And then the European shows a bigger system in, about 10, 11, 12 days from now. So both show some sort of storm, just different storms, different time frames. But let's go ahead and zoom in on the actual energy itself. These are our vorticity maps. I'll show you the GFS. Here's that first little, or this is actually the second clipper system this coming weekend into early next week working on through. Well, I don't know why that's a highlighter all of a sudden. Into here, that swings on through. And then I think the pattern moderates a little bit into early next week. But here comes another big piece of energy. That's that big shot of cold air. You'll see all that orange showing up in the east. That swings up, and then comes the second larger piece of energy out of Canada. So kind of two pieces to watch here. Southern stream energy here, northern stream energy here. And what's happening is that big block of air is moving down into Minnesota on the GFS, so the vorticity associated with it is kind of down up here into the Rockies of Canada. Now, we move this ahead into time. This is next Friday, by the way. We get into next Saturday, into next, we'll stop at next Saturday. That energy dives down into the Midwest, and here's all the southern stream energy waiting for it. And what do? They combine, and we get a significant storm out of it. Into next week, and then after that, another big combination of energy, or at least pieces that are close to each other near that time frame. The European showed it kind of around the 10th or the 11th. So two time frames to watch here. Watching kind of the 7th through the 9th, and then the 10th through the 11th, separate storm systems, but both could be winter storms. Now, what does this mean for the surface? And again, buckle your seats a little bit here for you snow lovers in the east. Here we go, GFS. This is the first little clipper right now, or the kind of second clipper you see moving through. Not a big signal on the GFS, but it's there. Lake effect continuing into early next week. We get another shot of cold air. Kind of right around now. That begins to moderate by Tuesday, Wednesday, and we get another clipper. This is Wednesday. This isn't even the storm yet. This is just kind of a clipper associated with that big push of cold air on the way. This could bring snow outside of the places currently seeing it into the northeast. Maybe a little bit closer to the I-95 corridor, maybe even the I-95 corridor. You'll notice here we've got some snowflakes flying on the GFS. And then what is supposedly going to happen on the GFS is this kind of pulls north like I showed you, and then our second piece of energy dives down behind it like we saw. And we've got a lot of southern energy. What's happening is we have a front extended with this clipper type system, and that front is going to leave some energy down near the Gulf, and then that second northern stream energy comes down, combines with it. Here we go. This is next Friday. Again, very cold air into the northeast just got brought by the previous storm. And here comes the actual lift for potential snow. We've got snow breaking out into the northern plains this coming Friday into Saturday. And then we've got an all-out winter storm happening into portions of the mid-Atlantic this basically a week from right now. We've got an ice storm in the Carolinas. We've got a snowstorm in Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. And then this begins to deepen. We've got a winter storm in Virginia into the Delmarva, Delaware, up the I-95 corridor through portions of Philadelphia, even into New Jersey. And then that storm strengthens pretty significantly, but stays offshore. After that, potentially another storm system they're working on through. But a lot of questions still to answer, a lot of details to iron out. I'll show you the Canadian model as well from last night. And folks, it's a pretty similar story. There's the first storm system. That's the first clipper. Leaves that southern energy. Here comes another shot of cold air, another piece of energy. And this one's even further south. We've got a major ice storm into North Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, into portions of Tennessee, Virginia. That storm stays pretty far south. And, then the model ends there. Now, I will also show you the European, and the European is not nearly as excited as the other two. I'll kind of show you the beginning here. We'll move this ahead in a time. Same story with the first system. There's that clipper that works through around Wednesday, Thursday time frame of this coming week. Then what happens after that is not a whole lot. We do get the same push of cold air. The models agree on that. You'll see that high pressure diving southward. And we even do have a little bit of energy. Notice this little piece that kind of flies down here. Also, I cannot draw an arrow to save my life. I apologize. That energy kind of flies on through, but there's no connection. The southern piece, the northern piece don't connect. And then the European has that bigger storm system, again, about 10 plus days from now. And that one kind of does some crazy stuff, but that's well on down the road. So I showed you the operational runs. What about the ensembles? That's really what you want to focus on at this range, not so much the operational runs. This is snowfall within a 24-hour period. We'll start with the GFS ensembles. Remember, the GFS operational run was the one that was more excited. And you'll notice lake effect continuing. This is Wednesday, Thursday. Here's that first clipper system. Potentially a pretty good snowstorm out of that into the interior northeast. Maybe even flakes make it to the I-95 corridor. We'll see as we get closer. But here comes the next storm. You'll notice that energy diving down out of the Rockies. And that gets well south, and we see a snow signal in places pretty far south. In fact, we've got a mean of more than an inch of snow into North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, up into portions of the Northeast. And you'll get the general idea here of where we should be watching this is kind of there, where you have the snow total showing up. Now, this is not a major signal right now. This isn't 4 or 5 inches plus. Not every ensemble member is showing it. But it is something to watch and to monitor as we continue in November here and start December. And then another little burst of a snow signal there after it with that potential secondary storm system. European, again, it wasn't as excited on the operational run. The ensembles, there's that first big clipper. Again, a signal there. In fact, a pretty big signal even for areas through Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, down even into the Scranton area. So I think the European's probably a little more excited about that one than the GFS. Then we get to the next signal, and it's not as high as the GFS by any means, but there are some members of the European showing that GFS solution, getting some snow or some ice down into the mid-Atlantic, portions of the southeast, and then trying to maybe ride that up the coast a little bit. Then the European gets a little more excited about that secondary storm. But again, not a big signal for either one right now, and you wouldn't expect that at this time frame. Again, it's still a way on down the road. Now, one thing that the models are agreeing on is the cold air. They both suggest that we are going to get a big shot of cold air here to kind of get into this time frame. Right now, already well below average. Like I mentioned earlier, moderating a little bit. This is Wednesday. Now, not warm by any means, but warmer than it has been. You'll notice some more red showing up on the map, but that's right before our next big shot of cold air works on in, and this would supply the cold air for a snowstorm. So I think we're pretty confident we're going to have cold air in the east come next weekend. The question will be, can we get some energy to time up with that cold air, as it always is? Or actually, generally speaking, we have the energy, we don't have the cold air. This time, I think we have the cold air. The question is, do we have the energy? And that cold air looks to lock into place for a little while and get us at least through the next 10 days or so, I think, into the eastern half of the country. Alrighty, folks. Well, that's all I got for you on this, what day of the week is it? It is Saturday. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Again, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, and comment. Let me know where you're watching from and if you want to see some snow. All right, folks, y'all have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you all tomorrow.